Tonight, a disgraced schoolteacher walks free after admitting to a student sex scandal. A driver accused of running after the death of a young sporting star. A close call for drivers targeted on the Western Ring Road. McDonald's facing a $250 million lawsuit. The hamburger giant accused of wages theft. The supermarket chain predicting that grocery prices will drop by Christmas. And the AFL backs down after the Patrick Cripps bombshell decision.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Peter Mitchell starts now.
Good evening. A teacher has been banned from the classroom for life, but spared jail after he admitted to a sexual affair with one of his students. The father struck up the relationship after he was dumped by his fiancée.
49-year-old PE teacher Scott Kozinski avoided jail.
Scott, do you have anything to say about the sentence today?
Even though he admitted to a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old student.
Do you agree that you preyed on this young woman?
The father of two was teaching the Year 12 at a Melbourne school when they began having sex after he was dumped by his fiancée. They went to AFL football matches, he drove her to her formal, and they would spend school lunch breaks in his office. The relationship ended a few months after the victim turned 18.
Do you feel embarrassed for your actions?
Kozinski was also a football coach, taking the Caroline Springs to its first premiership in 2016.
It's always a big challenge moving up a division, so just being competitive and putting our best foot forward, and we'll see how it goes at the end of the year with their results and so forth.
He was also a popular junior football academy coach with the Western Jets.
The woman went to police more than a decade after the crime, still feeling shame and embarrassment. It's caused anxiety and distrust within her own relationships, including her children's teachers.
Kozinski pleaded guilty to one count of sexual penetration of a 17-year-old child in his care and received a 19-month suspended sentence. He'll never be allowed to teach or coach football again and will be on the sexual offender register for 15 years.
Do you have anything to say to this young woman?
Tegan Dolling, 7 News.
A driver is under police guard in hospital, accused of running away from a fatal crash on the South Gippsland Highway. Sarah Jones is at police headquarters this evening. Sarah, a teenage boy was killed on his way home from trade school.
Mitch, tributes are flowing for 19-year-old Noah Peacock, who was a passionate basketballer and an aspiring glazier. The teenager was driving home around 4:30 yesterday afternoon when he was hit head-on and killed. His brother took to social media saying, "Some things just don't make sense. Love you, brother. This shouldn't have been you." Other friends have described him as having a heart of gold and touched so many lives. A 25-year-old Hampton Park man remains in hospital, accused of running away from the scene after the two cars collided.
That male also suffered injuries as a result of the crash, so that could be a factor as to why he may have left. The simple message is if you're not going to abide by the road rules, don't drive.
Police say witnesses saw an erratic driver moments before the crash. Mitch?
Sarah Jones at police headquarters, thank you. A Melbourne mother has been left shaken after her windscreen was shattered by a heavy metal fishing sinker hurled from an overpass. Police believe she's not the only victim and they're desperate to catch the culprits before they take a life.
The motorist didn't see it coming. A piece of metal shattering her windscreen on the Western Ring Road at Tullamarine.
A really loud bang, like a gunshot. We were just stunned.
Mother of two, Julie, was behind the wheel, her teenage daughter next to her around 6:25 last night.
I could have easily lost control. I don't know how I managed to maintain control of the car.
She believes it was dropped from an overpass near Airport Drive. When she pulled over nearby, another motorist had stopped too and ran to speak with her.
He just said, "If your car's damaged as well." He flew back into his car and sped off.
Julie suspects he rushed back to look for those responsible. Her husband came to help.
When I got out there and saw the damage caused, I thought to myself, oh my God, if this thing had gone through the windscreen, it could have pierced her chest. She's lucky to be alive. You know, she could have been killed from it.
It follows a series of similar incidents near Geelong in March and June where rocks were dropped. This time it was something different.
It looks like a fishing sinker, one of the real heavy sinkers that they use out in the surf.
Police received other calls about items being thrown down onto vehicles here last night and believe 2 other cars were hit, but a patrol of the area couldn't find the culprits.
Going under any sort of bridge, I'll be looking up to make sure that there's no one there.
Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
The biggest fast food company in the world is at the centre of one of Australia's most significant wage theft claims. McDonald's is facing legal action with thousands of employees chasing up to $250 million.
It's claimed while McDonald's was advertising, its staff were working without a break they were entitled to.
We'll be alleging that 10-minute breaks were not given to those people over a period of about 6 years.
A paid 10-minute break for working 4 hours or more.
We're a family of over 106,000 employees.
Brooke used to be part of that family.
In the dead middle of summer, working over fries, hot oil vats.
At 3 different McDonald's.
I was never made aware that there were paid rest breaks. We were allowed to go to the toilet and we were allowed to have a drink of water, but we were never allowed to, go have 10 minutes to ourselves. They just said, we don't really do that here.
This mega action now is just drawing a line in the sand. Enough's enough.
The union's action covers nearly 1,000 current and former McDonald's sites, saying more than 250,000 workers, almost 2% of Australia's workforce, are owed $250 million compensation.
The union says it will be pushing for McDonald's to be penalised, which could also cost the fast food giant hundreds of millions of dollars. McDonald's says it'll be fighting the case.
In a statement saying it believes its restaurants complied with applicable instruments, provided rest breaks to employees, we are very mindful of our obligations under applicable employment laws. The federal court action could take a year. Paul Karak, 7 News.
The chair of Ambulance Victoria is stepping down. Ken Lay has been in the role for 6 years after serving as Victoria's Chief Police Commissioner. Despite scaling back his roles, he will keep working on a report into the location for a second safe injecting room in the CBD. The Premier described Mr Lay as one of the state's longest serving and most trusted public sector leaders. Australia's military is now armed with a new supercomputer to help defend the nation. The top secret technology will help develop weapons and machinery as China ramps up its presence in our region.
Adelaide's Edinburgh Defence Precinct, now home to one of the world's most powerful supercomputers.
This is a transformational technology.
Technology so secret we weren't allowed to film it. The government providing these images instead, saying the computer will be used for designing and testing future warfare systems, including nuclear-powered submarines.
Science and technology creates strategic surprise and avoids strategic surprise.
That now more important than ever as we enter a new era of competition and conflict.
China is seeking to shape the world around it in a way that we've not seen before.
Experts say Beijing's missile tests and live fire drills in the Taiwan Strait after US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taipei is proof of that.
The lesson of the last week or two is that it doesn't take much of a pretext at all for China to be very, very irate.
Taiwan launching its own military exercises in response.
We will firmly defend our sovereignty and national security.
With foreign interference and espionage now more prevalent in Australia than ever before, the Chinese government is also viewed as the biggest threat to Australia's national security.
These are attempts to use the so-called grey zone, which falls short of war.
But, he says, go hand in hand with Beijing's trade bans on Australian exports. Rob Scott, 7 News.
Google has been forced to pay $60 million in penalties in a major ruling handed down by the federal court. The fine stems from a long-running court fight with the Australian competition watchdog over misleading users on the collection of personal location data. In April last year, the federal court found Google breached consumer laws. Victoria's Electoral Commission has launched a probe into Matthew Guy's office and the secret donor scandal. The opposition leader has been avoiding questions on the issue all week, but turned up today on the New South Wales border.
The last 11 days have been an uphill battle for Matthew Guy. His chief of staff forced to resign after he tried to funnel $100,000 into his personal account. His media director walked out, and yesterday his executive assistant was fired.
Every position in my office is filled. There's no gaps in my office. And when you have a change at the top, there are always changes.
The opposition leader left senior ministers to answer questions this week, prompting a taxpayer-funded press release from the state government asking, where's Matthew?
He needs to be honest with Victorian people. Where is he?
This tactic by the Andrews government is a bit mischievous, of course, but it is designed to keep the pressure on the Liberal Party, and it really keeps the opposition leader on the back foot.
Today, Matthew Guy was talking 300 kilometres away in Wodonga.
I'm proud to be back again at the border. I believe in a government for the whole state, not just Melbourne.
But he wasn't answering questions about how the email scandal unfolded, why the email was sent to him, or who instructed it.
I'm not going to go into this over and over again.
The Victorian Electoral Commission contacted Matthew Guy's office late last night. They've requested an array of documents relating to the email scandal, telling 7 News inquiries are now underway.
I will make sure they get everything they require. They've got work to do. Make the point, though, that there's still 2 Corruption Commission investigations into the government.
Chanel Vella, 7 News.
The Australian energy market operator will be given sweeping new powers to allow it to force companies to release gas in the event of supply shortages. Energy ministers from all states and territories agreed to the plan in Canberra today, which aims to prevent future power outages.
It's fair to say the challenges remain. The challenges remain this year, they remain next year, in the immediate future.
Ministers also agreed to speed up the rollout of renewable energy technology. Hundreds of critical Qantas employees are threatening to stop work if they don't get a pay rise. They say it won't cause disruptions as airlines continue to struggle with delays and cancellations.
Hugs and even welcome home tears as passengers on board flight QF70 from New Delhi finally touched down.
It was really bad.
An engineering issue saw the Qantas plane grounded in the Indian capital for almost 48 hours.
It was cancelled and we had to stay back for two more days.
There was very little communication, so we were made to wait for about 10 hours at the airport before we were told what we had to do.
Around 4 a.m. in the morning, they said that they're organising a hotel for us in Delhi.
At least 700 aircraft engineers from Qantas and its budget carrier are threatening work stoppages and no overtime if they don't get a pay rise. The union had previously demanded a one-off 12% pay increase for Qantas employees, Jetstar 15% over 4 years, and for Perth-based network aviation engineers, a 20% rise over the same 4-year period. It stresses it doesn't want to cause disruption to passengers. For now, work stoppages will only be for 1 minute. Both Qantas and Jetstar say the move towards strike action is completely unreasonable, given meetings are scheduled with the union next week. The stop work threat comes as the aviation industry struggles with staff shortages, delays and cancelled flights. The airline says it's putting in contingency plans to deal with any disruptions. Sarah Jones, 7 News.
A Truganina grandmother is dreaming up ways to spend $20 million after winning Powerball. She stayed up all night in shock, considering her newfound fortune that came after buying a ticket from a Tarneet news agency.
The Wyndham Village Lotto and News can rightfully be called one of Victoria's luckiest stores.
Could not believe it. One more. We were waiting for Powerball. Now we got it. Over the moon.
Owners Marla and Mahesh can't believe they sold the winning ticket, worth $20 million.
We feel like we won it by ourselves. We want to go for holiday.
They sold the ticket to a Truganina grandmother who checked her numbers before going to bed. In a statement, she said, "I only got about 40 minutes sleep last night. I couldn't get out of the chair. I couldn't go to the toilet. I couldn't move. It was so surreal. The lucky agency has now generated winning numbers across all lottery games.
She just decided at the last minute, no, I'm not going to do my usual thing. I'm just going to mark my entry with birth dates and special numbers.
The nation's newest millionaire wants to travel Australia by train and help her children buy a house.
Very, 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 very happy for the lady.
Rebecca Madden, 7 News.
A water contamination alert in the city's northwest has been lifted. Residents in Langs Road, Ascot Vale, had their water supply cut on Tuesday after discoloration was noticed during roadworks. Locals, including school students, were given bottled water. Sample testing overnight shows the supply is now safe to drink, and Greater Western Water confirmed the supply had been contaminated. The AFL is hinting at rule changes on head-high hits after a bombshell appeal cleared Patrick Cripps to play this weekend. The decision gives the Blues a big boost in the finals race but adds new complexity in the concussion battle.
Carlton skipper spent last night on the couch, tuning into a live stream of the tribunal, a marathon hearing that lasted 4.5 hours.
I just had dinner and just put it on in the background and, I'd never been through something like that.
Cripps's two-match ban overturned on a legality that he didn't bump. The verdict delivered at 10:40pm.
I was pumped. The team, the legal team did a great job.
Oh, he's the captain. So, you like your captain out there.
It not only keeps Cripps eligible for the Brownlow medal, but free to lead Carlton's September charge. Needing to beat Melbourne or Collingwood to break a 9-year finals drought, Cripps cleared despite his Brisbane opponents being concussed.
Oh, you can clearly see on the vision that I went for the ball the whole time.
Whilst it's the right move to be trying to remove as many of these concussions as we can, I think there'll always be grey in our game.
Oh, well, I hope it gives actually more clarity in some ways. I mean, we always felt like... as a player, you have an ability to be able to contest the ball.
The AFL accepts the controversial call, which flies in the face of the league's tough stance on concussion. In a statement, it says the health and safety of our players is of paramount importance, and while it was too early to say if the decision would prompt any changes, the AFL would not shy away from taking such action if it was needed.
If Patrick has got off the charge because they believe that he didn't intend to do that, I think it's a good thing.
Mitch Cleary, 7 News.
And it's now or never for St Kilda tonight. Tim Watson is inside Marvel Stadium ahead of a mini elimination final for the Saints, Tim.
Mitch, it's an important game. Their finals hopes are on the line tonight against the Lions. Chief football reporter Tom Brown has inside access to both camps ahead of a crucial clash.
Tim, St Kilda had a hot start to the season, but tonight find themselves 2 points outside the 8 and really must pull off a Friday night upset against the Lions, who are red hot, particularly in the first 3 quarters against Carlton last week, and are aiming for the top 4. Now, Zach Jones was omitted during the week. He will start as the medical stub for St Kilda tonight. Alistair Clarkson chasing one of St Kilda's key off-field lieutenants, David Rath. I've spoken to Rath one-on-one. I have more shortly from Inside Marvel here in Sport. It's a mini-final, Tim.
Thanks, Tom. Plus exclusive details why Young Roo was left out in the cold with a brutal selection statement. Also, how an early retirement could shake up the trade period as danger comes off the long run. And a former teammate of Dustin Martin has cast fresh doubt over his future at Punt Road. More on that soon, Mitch.
OK, Tim, thank you. We'll see you then. Magpies are causing havoc on the Mornington Peninsula, shutting down children's sport and leaving authorities with a dilemma. The details are coming up on 7 News. Also, how a Melbourne mum used Gumtree for an $80,000 con. See how beachgoers were forced to duck for cover in Greece. And later, how to take advantage of healthcare at home so you don't have to go to hospital. A man is on the run from police after a senseless attack on a train conductor. The passenger was on a Geelong train on Wednesday morning when a staff member asked him to turn down his music. After getting off at Lara station, he punched the conductor in the face and fled. A Melbourne mother posing as an immigration agent ripped off vulnerable people desperate to stay in Australia. The con woman then tried to flee the country, thinking she got away with the $80,000 scam.
Marlene Charon promised to help her clients start a new life in Australia. But once she had their money, she vanished. The mother of two preyed on vulnerable foreign nationals. Charon put ads on Gumtree claiming she specialised in securing protection visas, applications for permanent residency, finding sponsored employment and providing legal advice under the business name Beyond Immigration. But she was neither a qualified migration agent nor a solicitor. Clients would meet the 48-year-old at a Bourke Street office building to hand over cash. She then left them waiting for months, even a year, for applications that were never lodged, swindling a total of $80,000 from 4 victims. What did you do with the money, Marlene? Miss Charon was arrested at Melbourne Airport in 2019 as she tried to flee to India, telling investigators a volunteer worker was responsible for the rort. After winding up the scam, Marlene Charon decided to enrol in a law degree, a qualification that comes too little too late. She won't be fit to practice with a criminal conviction. The court heard Miss Charon hasn't repaid any of the victims and is now awaiting sentence. Jade Vincent, 7 News.
Now to incredible pictures. A plane has come perilously close to beachgoers. Tourists were sent ducking for cover as this Wizz Air jet made what locals say was the lowest ever landing at an airport in Greece. The short landing strip is bookended by the ocean, forcing pilots to come in far lower than other runways. A junior footy club match has been invaded by an angry magpie, throwing the game into disarray. The swooping bird shut down play and presented the team with a dilemma on the Mornington Peninsula.
The under-11 Crib Point Magpies recovering after their match was sensationally sabotaged by their own mascot.
Coming.
And angry Maggies swooped over and over, forcing the Auskick players to duck for cover.
I was a bit frightened.
One kid was laying on the ground and he didn't know where to go because he was having a real fair go at him.
Young Ethan Abbott became a target and made a run for it.
Oh, he was running for his life.
He felt like I was going to die.
He was like Usain Bolt. He had the same stride as Mason Cox, though. There's been a comparison with his glasses. Very much alike.
The moment of panic captured by Gary Bradshaw.
I've been shooting junior footy for 20 years and nothing's got traction like this. We've seen it shared all around the world.
While Ethan and the team were pretty shaken up by the incident, they're determined not to let it affect their love of the game. They're now gearing up for another clash on Sunday, hopeful their new friends will keep their distance.
He's not happy. He's not. Go, keep running.
Magpies are a protected species, so there's little the club can do other than work on their speed and agility and keep their specs firmly in place. Christy Cooper, 7 News.
Jane Bunn joins us now. And Jane, it sounds like it was a quite different day depending on where you were.
Mitch, indeed it was. Now, if you were in Geelong, it was only 10 degrees mid-afternoon. That was in pouring rain. 12 millimetres into the gauge and still going. Parts of the east had threatening skies, but hardly any wet weather. This storm cloud does produce hail. You can see it up in there. Luckily, it didn't drop. Most of the wet weather continues to be in western suburbs tonight. Then tomorrow, we should enjoy a sunny morning. The full details are after Sport, Mitch.
See you then. Thank you very much, Jane. Parents are being targeted in a new text scam. Next on 7 News, watch out for the con that preys on our basic instincts to steal cash. Also coming up, a new supermarket showdown and cost of living hope for Christmas. Why India's biggest sporting and film stars have descended on Victoria. And the scorned lover in a very public takedown of a cheating ex. A new texting scam is targeting vulnerable parents, posing as their own children in desperate need of cash. It's already netted the international cyber crime syndicate more than $2 million.
They're preying on compassionate parents, one text message at a time.
They might have travelled somewhere, lost their phone, be stuck in a situation when they need urgent help.
An SMS that starts with, "Hey mum, it's me," claiming to be their child on a new number because they've lost or broken their phone. First, striking up a conversation, then asking for money.
I'll need to either get an image of the parent's credit card sent to them or money transferred to an account they nominate to be able to help them get by.
Detectives believe the cybercrime syndicate is operating overseas.
More than $2 million has been reported stolen by this syndicate, but the real figure could be much higher. Police believe there's more victims out there.
When this began, usually demands were between $2,000 to $3,000, but towards May, June of this year, it seemed to increase to about $3,000 to $4,000 per victim.
Money stolen in scams is often quickly moved into online bank accounts and cryptocurrency, and is hard to get back.
If you get these messages, maybe have an audio conversation.
Anyone who believes they've been caught up in the scheme should contact police and their bank. Tegan Dolling, 7 News.
Dog adoption fees are being slashed as shelters across Melbourne, including the Lost Dogs Home, reach capacity. Many owners are struggling to afford to keep their pets or find it difficult to care for them post-pandemic.
The majority of people are saying to us they don't have time anymore, and the biggest impact is the cost of living rising.
They're urging Victorians to open their hearts to pups who've been surrendered this winter. A new supermarket war could be around the corner after independent chain IGA warned store owners against price hikes. It comes as data reveals many customers are changing their shopping habits to cope with the rising cost of living.
It's been an expensive year for shoppers as the cost of our supermarket staples soars.
There's still more to come in the months ahead.
But relief could be in sight. Metcash, the wholesaler of IGA and Foodland stores, has warned pushing prices even higher could push customers out the door.
We don't want to lose those market share gains that we've been able to make over the past few years.
But many of us are already changing the way we shop.
Australian households are tightening their belts. They're expecting ongoing price rises.
Using strategies like buying cheaper home brand labels, buying in bulk, buying more basic items.
Vegan or gluten-free things in particular, and they've always been expensive, but they're sort of extortionate now.
And just cutting back overall.
I pretty much shop to a list and menu plan, but now I'm just a lot stricter on myself.
Coles says it has cut the price of around 1 in 20 products since January, while rival Woolies reduced prices on around 300 essential items in May. But neither grocery giant would tell 7 News just how many products now have higher prices.
We're seeing customers even change where they shop. They're buying online if they think they can get a discount. They're certainly buying on special, but they're shifting to the discount retailers.
A shift that could be short-lived, with hopes growing that grocery prices could level out by Christmas.
We'd like to think that the worst is now behind us and pricing will start to stabilise in this next 6-month period.
Gemma Acton, 7 News.
Overseas, a gunman in Lebanon has been arrested after he held up a bank that wouldn't allow him to withdraw his own money to pay his father's hospital bills. He took up to 10 people hostage, threatening to set fire to himself. In 2019, Lebanon imposed strict rules blocking many residents from retrieving their own funds. And actor Anne Heche is not expected to survive after a fiery car crash last Friday. In a statement, the star's family says she remains in a coma with a severe brain injury. She's only being kept on life support to determine if her organs can be donated. Police say preliminary blood tests have revealed drugs in her system. A man has been outed as a cheat in a brutally public way. A full-page ad in a local Queensland newspaper now has the whole town asking, who are Jenny and Steve?
She's not your average page 3 girl. Jenny, the woman behind the ad that's got tongues wagging, and Steve looking over his shoulder.
Well, Jenny's not a happy chappy then, is she?
Sucks to be him. Dear Steve, she writes, I hope you're happy with her. Now the whole town will know what a filthy cheater you are. They certainly know what he did, but as for who he is...
We don't know Steve and Jenny. I feel sorry for Steve, though.
But Jenny saved the best. or worse depending on which side you sit, for last. P.S. I bought this ad using your credit card.
I think it's a bit petty.
Mackay and Whit Sunday Life say they didn't charge the card, but insist the ad is legit.
We had a little discussion in the office as to whether or not we were going to print it.
And news travels fast, exploding on social media. Please tell me a Jenny tagged a Steve in this thread. She did, but not the Jenny. So all my friends are aware I am not the legend Jenny, and my Steve has not been bad. That's one Steve crossed off the list. To the real one, it might be time to cancel that credit card. Michael Coombs, 7 News.
The biggest celebration of Indian cinema in the Southern Hemisphere is set to get underway tonight. This year's Indian Film Festival of Melbourne features over 120 films in 29 languages at cinemas across the city and streaming on the IFFM app.
All the films are free to watch, but we do urge you to make a donation to Royal Children's Hospital.
The festival continues for 9 days. There's new help for Australians who want their health care at home. Next, everything from doctors and nurses to help with cleaning, gardening and even cooking. Why it's becoming easier and cheaper. Also the fresh moves to put more teachers in the classroom. And a heart-stopping 24 hours for a mum after 4 children were snatched by a man on the run. Paid internships could be made available for teaching students in their final year of study. Education ministers from around the country met in Canberra today to address crippling nationwide staff shortages in the sector.
We all want to pay teachers better. We've all got limited budgets to do that.
The federal government, in partnership with schools, will look at creating a national action plan to better support teachers. 4 children have been found safe and well after they were taken from their North Queensland home. Police issued a national amber alert after a man took the siblings. Nearly 24 hours later, they were delivered home to their mother. The man accused of taking them is still on the run. Joshua Carter is known to the children and to police. Interest rate rises at 3 of the big 4 banks came into effect today. Network Finance editor Gemma Acton has more on the markets.
Thanks, Peter. What has been a decent week for Aussie shares ended on a disappointing note, with the ASX 200 shedding 39 points to close at 7,033. The energy sector escaped the gloom pervading most of the market, with Woodside shares today's big winners. The Aussie dollar has continued to climb. It's now pushed above 71 US cents. While oil prices got a bump overnight, that was after the International Energy Agency upped its forecasts for energy demand this year. And for some customers at ANZ, NAB and the Commonwealth, life has just got more expensive, with the most recent 0.5% rate hike being added on to variable home loan rates from today. At Westpac, it's next Thursday. The lowest variable rates remain just under 4% for now. Peter.
Thanks, Gemma. As COVID infections continue to put our hospitals and aged care under strain, more Australians are choosing home care. From doctor checkups to rehab, it's never been easier or cheaper.
89-year-old Richard Leeson wants to stay in his home as long as possible. He had a stroke 5 years ago and needs a hand.
Peeling stuff is a terrible job, particularly with my impaired left hand.
Made possible through the Commonwealth subsidised Home Care Packages program. It works with support providers like 5 Good Friends.
It takes so much pressure off of not only the people that we support, but their families.
Services include nursing, physical therapies and at-home doctor treatments. There's also assistance for cleaning, gardening, cooking, bathing and grooming, as well as specialised taxi services and even options for social outings or visits to stay connected. There is a daily fee of around $11 as well as additional charges set by the provider. The application is completed online. 275,000 home care packages will be available to Australian seniors by the end of the year. Each application can take anywhere between 3 and 6 months to assess. There are also options through private health. Australian Unity offers physical therapies, personal care, rehab, as well as telehealth. Bupa includes chemotherapy, dialysis and aged care support, while Frank has hospital in the home, which is an alternative to hospital admission, rehab and chronic disease management programs.
About 82% of the health insurance providers on our panel have healthcare at home in some way, shape or form.
Georgia Terry, 7 News.
2 Asian bull elephants put on a show at Melbourne Zoo today for World Elephant Day. The best friends celebrated with a playful session of sparring and trunk wrestling.
Manjai is nearly 2 tonne in weight, whereas Lukchai is over 3.5 tonnes. So they've got a lot of energy, someone to push around, someone to play with.
There are only 50,000 Asian elephants left in the wild. Sport is next with Tim Watson at Marvel Stadium. And Tim, it's a make or break night for the Saints, isn't it?
It is, Mitch. It's crunch time for Brett Ratton's side tonight. Can they keep their September hopes alive? We'll find out what they've got in store for the Lions next. Plus, exclusive details, how an ice bath cost a Roos young gun a long-awaited homecoming. Also, why this former Tiger thinks Dustin Martin might have played his last game at Punt Road. And have golf's biggest names already given Cam Smith the $100 million cold shoulder? Welcome back to Marvel Stadium, where St Kilda faces a mini elimination final against the Lions. Chief football reporter Tommy Brown has inside access to both teams. And Tom, it's now or never for the Saints.
Yeah, I've just spoken to St Kilda, their boss David Rath, one of their football bosses. They're aware they can't rely on Richmond. They have to win tonight to keep their finals hopes alive. In terms of the latest on Dan Hanbury, they're still hopeful that Hanbury could play despite this ankle complaint next week. In terms of the latest on Jordan De Goey, still no green light from the board to officially chase and offer Jordan De Goey a deal. Significantly low in terms of tonight. St Kilda has lightened its training load, specifically this week, in a bid to recapture some of their form.
We've freshened things up a little bit. We had a shorter week, so we changed our main training day to give the boys a little bit more time between sessions.
You linked to interest from Alistair Clarkson this week. Is there any chance of you joining North Melbourne?
No, look, it's obviously flattering to be linked to those conversations. I don't think anyone really knows where Clarko's going to be yet anyway. And certainly, yeah, I'm very comfortable where I am at the Saints and I won't be going there.
And Tim, just finally on the coaching race, there is certainly a growing view, and that's all it is today, that Alistair Clarkson could be announced as the North coach as soon as next week, to coincide also with some sponsor obligations and announcements as well. Adam Uze firming for the Giants, but we'll all find out in the next couple of weeks. Tonight we'll find out if St Kilda are still in the finals race, Tim.
We will. Thanks, Tom. 7 News can reveal tonight disobeying his new coach has led to #1 draft pick Jason Horne-Francis being dumped by North Melbourne. Mitch Cleary has the exclusive details. And Mitch, this is going to spark more questions about his future at Arden Street.
Well, Tim, the star teenager was called out by interim coach Lee Adams and senior players on Sunday for failing to complete his proper ice baths and recovery in front of their very eyes. Now, it's contributed to him being dropped for what was meant to be his first AFL game in front of family and friends in South Australia. He wasn't even part of the Kangaroos squad, instead spending this morning with a dozen teammates training in Melbourne. Horne-Francis is contracted for next year, but fresh queries will come on whether he'll seek a trade home, having parked those contract talks to season's end.
He's 18 years old. There are going to be little mistakes along the way, and our job is to teach him. Okay, that's just not what we would do here. Let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. And then they've got to learn themselves as well.
Along with Jason Horne-Francis, all eyes on Cameron Zurhaar and Curtis Taylor's contracts, both players still without a deal for next year. Tim?
Thanks, Mitch. Former Richmond star Brett Delidio has cast fresh doubt over Dustin Martin's future at Punt Road. Delidio says he sees similarities between Dusty and his own injury-plagued exit from Tigerland.
A former teammate blowing the lid off the Dusty rumour mill.
I'm just hearing a bit of noise around the big fella, and I'm not sure I'm convinced on everything that's going on.
Richmond say Dustin Martin will see out his contract at Tigerland, but Brett Delidio's not sold.
I'm a bit sceptical on the whole thing. I'm not saying that it's not a hammy, but it's a bit similar to my situation. I think when I left, I had the calf, but probably could have come back, but then didn't. Had made my mind up that I was ready for a change.
A clean bill of health at Collingwood after a virus ran through the club. Not even the coach was immune.
Yeah, I had a day off. It was good to spend a bit more time on the couch. I got a lot of prep done, to be honest. I watched a lot of Sydney.
The Pies head to Sydney with the top 2 spot in their sights, and confidence within the group is sky high after knocking off reigning premiers Melbourne and winning 11 games in a row.
Willie can be a habit, and the Willie behaviours are definitely a habit. We're trying to create many of those.
Wet conditions on the Gold Coast won't force Patrick Dangerfield to pull up stumps. The midfielder will face the Suns despite a tight calf. At 29, Devon Smith is retired with 1 year to run on his contract.
Been a rush because it goes quick, but I really do think this group can get somewhere.
Smith's exit leaving the Bombers with some extra room in their salary cap this trade period. Natalie Yannidis, 7 News.
Nick Kyrgios's golden run of form has earned him a seeding at the US Open. Despite some heated moments at the Canadian Open, Kyrgios swept aside fellow Aussie Alex de Minaur in just 62 minutes.
Today was really hard mentally for me to go out here and play Alex. We're such good friends, and he's been having such a good career so far and carrying the Australian flag for so long.
Kyrgios has won 15 of his last 16 singles matches. Craig Bellamy Masterclass has lifted Melbourne Storm back up to third on the NRL table with an upset win over the Panthers. Cameron Munster started at fullback as the Storm claimed a 16-0 victory. And Aussie Cameron Smith's looming defection to the Live Tour isn't going down well with his competitors. Smith was left shocked when world number 1 Scotty Scheffler walked through his line during the opening round of the St Jude Classic, although Smith and Scheffler did share a high five after he holed out for eagle on the 13th. And Mitch, the Saints desperately need the win tonight, but they're coming up against a very fine Brisbane outfit, so I'm not sure they're going to be able to get the job done.
It's going to be a tall order, that's for sure, Tim. Yes, it should be a great game, though. Looking forward to it.
Very much looking forward to it too. Mitch, have a great weekend.
You too, Tim. Thanks very much. Jane is next with the forecast. And Jane, there's sunshine tomorrow.
We'll see what happens with the Saints tonight. But yes, lots of sunshine tomorrow. Now, it doesn't last all day. There's the risk of a late storm. The full details are next. Hello again. In the Melbourne area, most of the wet weather is in western suburbs and a bit down near the coast. After a low of 10, it reached a top of 15 in the city. There was the odd pocket of sunshine this morning, had a hint of spring thanks to higher humidity. But Geelong only peaked at 13, and here's why. Wet weather is mainly affecting the west and the far south. Geelong has had 13 millimetres, Avalon 4, while hardly anything is registered in the eastern gauges. There are very localised storms in this activity, one over Sunbury in the past hour. Wet weather is hardly reaching eastern Victoria today, while there is a lot happening in the west. Showers with local thunderstorms. All of that is coming down from the north and it's wrapping around into the western border. Now, thunderstorms popped up near Swan Hill, Hopetoun and on both east and southwest of Bendigo. The wet weather is wrapping around because there is a low that is over eastern South Australia and there is another one just west of Tasmania. Now, that second low will dissipate, and a new low is set to form off Gippsland. So tomorrow we'll have 2 lows affecting the state. And with high pressure that is to our south, here it is shaped like a jelly bean. It cradles these lows, not letting them move far. So there's 4 more days in this weather pattern. Tomorrow with those 2 lows, there is a lot going on. And it's most widespread during the afternoon. As the low off the coast takes over, the weather focus shifts, now mainly in the south and east. The low is far enough offshore that it shouldn't bring dangerous rain, but that is still a slight risk if you're in Gippsland. However, we are likely to see wave after wave of wet weather coming up from the south, and this lasts right through to the end of Tuesday with lots of alpine snow. Around the nation tomorrow, showery in Sydney and Adelaide. Showers and the risk of thunderstorms in Canberra. Brisbane, persistent but fairly light rain. Showers develop later in Hobart. That's before a very wet Sunday there with that low nearby. The next burst of wet weather arrives in Perth. To Victoria, showers most widespread during the afternoon with the risk of thunderstorms, and all of this falls as snow above around 1,400 metres. Now, after a big afternoon there, it generally eases at night. However, the activity increases in Gippsland later. Here it is as that low deepens. Closer in the morning, lots of sunshine. Then we'll see showers and thunderstorms pop up. That'll be around the outskirts of Melbourne. Now, if they do come in, it's most likely in the late afternoon. Not everyone will see one. Most remain staying completely dry. It is hit and miss activity. The city begins on 7, a top of 15. There's lots of sunshine out there. It should be quite a pleasant day. Cloud builds later, the slight risk of a shower or storm. To the 8-day outlook at Sunday, also heading for a top of 15. Light showers during the morning, increasing in the afternoon. Most of the wet weather is on Monday and Tuesday, 14 and 15. 2 days of 16 here, only late showers on Wednesday. The day is sunny and then lots of wet weather to finish the week as it really chills down. So lots of sunshine tomorrow, heading for a top of 15. It should be dry for most of it, but the risk of a late shower or storm, Mitch.
And that outlook looks rather stable, doesn't it?
It does in the middle period. So we've got lots of showers Monday, Tuesday, break Wednesday, and then a big push of wet weather at the end of the week.
Hanging out for
Wednesday's
the first
your day.
20.
Oh, waiting for that.
Thank you, Jane. And that's the way it is this Friday, the 12th of August. Thanks for your company. For now, from the 7 News team, good night.